Hi, welcome to Knits Up. I'm Mindy, your hostess, otherwise known as Knitter CNY. You can find me on Ravelry as Knitter CNY. There is also a Knits Up podcast group page there, and you'll find places on Facebook for the Knits Up podcast, and you'll find me on Instagram as Knitter CNY. All of that being said, sometimes I do show notes, sometimes I don't. I'm doing a short voice update this week so that you can get a feel for what the audio podcast used to be like many years ago. I've gone to video for like the last 4 or 5 years, and that seems to work, but I like to record a video or an audio podcast every now and then just to talk about what I'm working on. And some people prefer the audio format. I myself do listen to some audio podcasts. Most of them are video. So I thought I would record and tell you what I'm working on. Right now I am knitting my goddaughter's rainbow sweater. The pattern I'm using is Plum Pudding, and you can find that on my projects page. The yarn I'm using is Caron Cakes. When they came out with the original 100th anniversary of Caron, the Caron cakes were new in like 2016, and I bought some that are rainbow sprinkles. I can't remember whether I bought these here in Syracuse, but I think more than likely I might have bought them in Canada. A few years ago, I went to Listowel, Ontario. I highly recommend it. If you're up there and you're an American, buy a Canadian SIM card for your phone. Otherwise, your phone for making phone calls won't work. But if you go north, which I did, I went to Niagara Falls and then I went north through Bradford and Guelph to get to Listowel. It was a sort of surreal experience. I wound up going through about 30 miles of farmland that was dotted with dirt roads running off each side to varying ranches. And it was a flat floodplain that went on for miles. A 2 or 4 lane divided highway that just ran north and south. The oddest thing was on either side, near the hills or in the hills, Ontario Power. I'm assuming that's who it was. But whoever does the power in Ontario had giant wind turbines that dotted the landscape for 30 or 40 miles. It was one of the most surreal experiences I've had. And once I left Niagara Falls was when I realized that my cell phone would not work. However, I had downloaded directions into Google Maps, and somehow that still worked. It would give me an audio information about where I was and how many miles I had to go, so I could stay on the same road and keep traveling. Once I finally got to Guelph, it was like I had hit civilization. I found a fuel station and made sure I had a full tank of gas. I found a McDonald's that had wireless internet and proceeded to tell the locals that, oh, my Chevy car, they had told me that OnStar would work in Canada, to which about 6 people just started laughing and said, yeah, right, sure it does. And we all had a good chuckle about that while I downloaded more directions. Then I continued on to Listowel, and I went to, at the time, what was the big ball sale that's in May. My birthday is at the end of May, and so that sale happened to coincide with my birthday or very near thereafter. So I sort of did that as a weekend vacation because I live in Syracuse, and it was about a 4-hour drive or so, probably less than that, to go cross through Buffalo, go to Niagara Falls, and then go to Listowel. There is a factory store for Caron, Patents, Lily, and Bernat that is in Listowel. That's where the original factory was for Patents. I'm not really sure how to say it. I usually say Patents. but I think I bought these cakes there. I know I bought a whole bunch of Bernat blanket yarn. I bought a whole bunch of Peyton's Croy sock yarn. And so I am knitting my goddaughter's sweater out of the Caron Cakes Rainbow Sprinkles. And so far it's going really well. It's a top-down raglan cardigan that has sleeves and a hood. So I've knit down the body, and I'm actually on the ribbing at the bottom of it. The Caron Cakes had 5 colors in it. It worked out really well with this. I wound up making the pockets out of one color. The design of the sweater is very clever in that the pockets are actually knit in almost like kangaroo pockets and like a sweatshirt pocket kind of thing. And then you knit down from there for the rest of the body. And then once you do the button band, you're going to attach the pockets. I think you just, go through 2 layers of fabric, a pocket layer and a body layer to secure them. But the pattern's very good. It's not a lot of people have knit it. Only about 35 people on Ravelry have actually knit this pattern. Again, it's called Plum Pudding. I'm making a larger size because the problem that I found with it is that it was very close under the underarms. My goddaughter's 7.5 almost, and it was not quite to her underarms in the 6-7 size. So I actually went up to, I think it was a 9-10 size to get that length of the raglan to be longer. It might be a little too long in the body for her, but whatever. She'll be fine with that. It's also interesting because it's purl side out, which kind of breaks up these stripes so it's not quite as jarring with the colors. And it's a really good pattern. So far, it's been very clear. It's very detailed. I think it's about 14 pages of pattern. So she does very detailed directions. There's a lot of sizes too. Let me look. I'm not sure exactly what sizes. I want to say there's maybe about 8 or 9 different sizes, maybe more than that. So we're cruising along on that. And I'm also doing a baby blanket out of some Baby Softy colors that's in yellow, and it has some turquoise and red in it. And I'm doing a corner-to-corner blanket of that. It's called the Tumbling Blocks blanket that's on the Bernat website, I believe. And it's just, if you've never done a corner-to-corner blanket, the only way I can describe it is you chain, then you basically do a few double crochets, and then you do another chain, you make your same starting block again, and then you go back and you make another block around the previous chain from the first row. So you always wind up, with your blocks facing in opposite directions depending on what row you're on. And you can always tell what row you're on because you count the number of blocks and that corresponds to the row that you're on. So row 1 has 1 block, row 2 has 2 blocks, 3 has 3 blocks, and so on. So you can always tell what direction you're going and what you need to do next. Once you master that starting block and then just repeat all the way across, you're good. It's a very easy pattern to learn. I haven't done any decreasing yet. I'm not sure how many blocks am I up to. Well, I'm about, I'd say 20 inches, maybe 24 inches into this. And with this particular yarn, it works out really well because it's sort of doing a weird pooling thing every once in a while. So it looks like it's kind of a pattern, but because it's barber pulling when you get to those colors, it isn't a severe thing. But that yellow background is definitely like yellow duck is the color of that yellow. It's like yellow duck yellow. It'll make a nice light blanket. I've seen this done in different yarns in different sizes, and it looks really good. I don't think it should be very difficult to learn how to do the decreases, and this particular blanket takes 4 of the Bernat Softy Baby colors. The yellow one, I believe, is discontinued. I bought it when I was recovering from surgery. I had hernia surgery, umbilical hernia surgery about a year ago, where they put a mesh inside me basically to stop that hernia from coming out the wall of the abdomen. It was a 23-hour surgery where basically you go in the morning, you don't stay overnight at all. It's actually, I was out by like 1 maybe. So it was really fast. And then I had gone to my friend's house who had taken me to the hospital for the surgery, and she waited for me. And she and her husband let me hang out in their guest bedroom while I was recovering. And the next morning I woke up and was still trying to recover, and I wasn't going to like force myself to get up because you have to take it easy for about 6 weeks afterwards. So the first day I woke up and took more pain pills, and then I happened to get online, and Yarnspirations was having a really, really good clearance sale. So I bought this Baby Softy colors in that trip. So that was a lot of fun. I like knitting it. I'm also finishing up a shawl by Marley Bird that was part of the Tournament of Stitches that was going on during the NCAA basketball. But of course they can't say NCAA basketball because that's a copyrighted term, so they call it Tournament of Stitches. And this was a much simpler one. There were 5 parts to it. I got through part 2, and then I decided that I was using a variegated yarn as my background yarn, and I just wanted to continue the shaping that was in the pattern, but not continue with any of the patterning that was going on. There were a bunch of slip stitches, or some sections were, knit so many and then purl so many and knit, in the contrasting color. So I finally got to the point where I was like, I've got all this variegated yarn. I haven't used much of it. I have 5 balls of it. I like the color of it. I'm understanding how that shape is being formed in this pattern. So I'm just going to continue to do that garter stitch back and forth. So that's what I'm doing. And I haven't really worked on that all that much. It's kind of boring now, but that's okay. It'll give me something to do. I'm trying to think of everything else that's been going on. I've been watching a lot of podcasts, like I said. I have a smart TV, but I also have Google Chromecast. And I like that for being able to stream YouTube off of my phone onto my TV. That works very well. I have probably the lowest priced internet you could possibly buy. I only pay $15 a month. And for my internet, it's supposed to be that you can't stream anything. It's only good for email. Bull hockey. It works for internet just fine for what I need, but I'm the only person in this house, so it's not like I'm using multiple devices and doing heavy game playing or anything like that. So that works very well for me. I'm interested in finding out what people are working on, and if you're interested in doing a crochet or knit along type project, I'm thinking something over the summer, maybe from Memorial Day weekend onward, maybe to like the time the state fair starts in Syracuse, which I believe is a week and a half before Labor Day. So maybe we'll make it a Memorial Day to Labor Day project. That would give you 2 nice long weekends if you wanted to work on stuff. And we'll pick a project or several projects and see what we want to work on. Let me know if you're interested by posting over in the Ravelry group, Knits Up Podcast. Also, turn me on to anything on Netflix that you find interesting. I do have Netflix, but I will take recommendations. One thing that I've been watching now, I've gotten, I think, 2 episodes in, is a documentary series with Will Smith that's called One Strange Rock. It's really interesting. They're interviews with astronauts that have had extended time in space, and then they talk about natural phenomena that are on the Earth. One of the first episode is called Breathe, and it's about the oxygen cycle on the Earth. And you would think this would be the most boring topic in the world, but actually it was very interesting. It was very well done. It made things a lot better for my understanding of all the interplay of natural formations, including the rainforest and all sorts of the desert, everything. It was very interesting, very informative, and I think it would be a good program for kids because it would sort of spark their interest in science and nature and, be mildly entertaining at the same time. So that's all I'm going to talk about. It's actually turned night here, but I'm also going to insert a piece called Sunset that I find as the sun was setting here tonight. I recorded that. Those are my words. It was not scripted. I was actually thinking about writing it up at some point, but we know how I am. It's sort of philosophical, I guess you could say. I used to put in music into my podcast from Music Alley or Podcaster Network or something like that were royalty-free songs. That isn't available anymore. So I guess this would be my contribution. So I hope that you guys will enjoy that and let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you're interested in a knit or crochet along. And go have a good week and go craft something, because knits up.